Hi, everybody. Welcome to our program. This is English Digest. I am Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our TOEIC unit today. And today we're talking about a new policy for taking care of the elderly. Our conversation today is in the form of a talk show, whether it's on the radio or on TV. I'm not quite sure here, but we've got Elizabeth talking to Minister Taylor all about their new policies on elderly care services.
Wow. So we're going to learn a lot about that. I know some of our listeners are probably too young to be worried about their parents needing care as they get older. But there are other people that are learning English that have older parents. So, it'll be an interesting TOEIC. Now, Tom, your parents are still alive.
Yeah.
And they're in pretty good shape, right?
As far as I know,
Isn't that great?
It is. It's exceptional, but that isn't always the case, especially with my wife's parents. They got sick and were sick for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so this article today is pretty familiar to me, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there have grandparents or whoever that at some time in their life required a full-time caretaker. So that's what we're going to be talking about today in today's program. So let's listen to this talk show. It's, again, between Minister Taylor and Elizabeth, the host of the program. Let's go.
Good morning, Minister Taylor. First, I'd like to say how grateful we are to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk to your viewers about my new policy on elderly care services.
To begin with, I'd like to ask why this new policy is necessary.
The old policy was more than adequate for the time in which it was conceived. However, for a number of reasons, it is just no longer sustainable.
Does that mean people will need to pay more for their own care or that of their family members?
Our primary concern is that people should only pay what they can afford. Further contributions will come from the government. It should also be fair in that no generation should have to pay considerably more than another.
Well, let's move away from funding and talk about the kind of care you're hoping the new policy will provide.
It's self-evident that the more elderly people there are, the more caregivers society requires. Therefore, we need to make sure personnel involved in long-term care for the elderly receive appropriate wages and have a clear career path. Not only will this create jobs, but it will improve conditions in care facilities and give people the option of receiving care at home.
How about people suffering from dementia?
I'll move on to address that topic now.
Okay, guys, we're going to dive right in. I'm Elizabeth. You could probably tell. I'm hosting a program. So I'm a show host, and I've invited someone from the government. Now, in Taiwan, each kind of department, I would say, is called a ministry. Like there's the Ministry of Education. Tom, you're portraying someone called Minister Taylor. Where is Minister Taylor from?
Minister Taylor, he is a man of the cloth.
No.
He's a man of God.
No.
He's from the church. No, actually, the word minister is often used to describe a person
True.
who works in the church. I think when my parents took us to the Methodist church, I think it was. He was Minister Pearson, I think it was his title. But in any case here, we're talking about somebody who is head of a certain department of the government, not somebody religious here. The Minister of Defense, or you could have the Ministry of Defense in a government, so the person who is in charge of that is the minister. So this is Minister Taylor. Again, he is the leader of the Ministry of Health and Welfare.
So she's interviewing this person, this gentleman.
I guess that's me.
She says, good morning. Now, Tom, just explain minister so we know what that means. She goes on to say, first, I'd like to say how grateful we are to have you on the show. If you're grateful for something, you're very thankful. Someone's done something nice for you. And so you want to tell them, oh, gosh, thanks a lot. You wouldn't say, you could say, I'm grateful for your help. Here, she's just saying that The whole program's grateful to have him there. He's probably pretty important.
We're very thankful that you're on the program today. It's a special pleasure to have you with us. And Minister Taylor says, oh, the pleasure is all mine. Actually, he says, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to have the opportunity or the chance to talk to your viewers about my new policy on elderly care services. This is the policy of this particular branch of the government. He's saying it's his policy, so I guess he thought of this policy himself. Just some kind of plan about what they're going to do about elderly people, which of course are seniors.
That's right. To begin with, she wants to ask why this new policy is even needed or necessary. Minister Taylor says, well, the old policy was more than adequate for the time in which it was conceived. If something's adequate, it's good enough. It's not great, but it's good enough. It's adequate.
It's sufficient.
It's sufficient. You don't need more. He thought maybe at the time they came up with that policy or conceived that policy, it was just right for the time. If you conceive of something, it means you think it up. You can imagine it in your mind and turn it into something that's real. So he conceived, or his team in the ministry conceived of this plan, and at the time it was adequate. But what's wrong now, Tom?
Well, he says, however, for a number of reasons, it is just no longer sustainable. So this particular policy worked in the past, but things have changed. Things have changed in society, and for a lot of reasons, this particular policy can no longer continue. It cannot be maintained. It is no longer sustainable, and sustainable means it can just keep on going the way it is. They're going to have to make some changes. It's just not going to work anymore.
A lot of times when the government uses this term sustainable, it means it costs too much. So they need to reconfigure it so it's more affordable. And if it's the government paying for something, it's really just us paying for it because we're paying taxes. And our taxes pay for these programs. I think some people think that things from the government are free. They're not really. We're all paying for them. So remember that. Yeah.
Indeed, and of course a lot of people feel that this should be the responsibility of the government, and they had a certain amount of money to take care of elderly people in the past, but now for various reasons that money is just not sufficient. It is not sustainable, or at least this policy cannot continue. Now here Elizabeth has another question. Does that mean people will need to pay more for their own care or that of their family members? So indeed, does that mean that people will need to pay out of pocket? They'll need to pay more for their own care, maybe invest in some retirement plans or some insurance or something like that. There are various things you can invest in before you retire. I've even heard of is it nursing home insurance or something like that? You can invest in that ahead of time, so you can make preparations. So if you plan ahead, yes, you won't have to rely on the government. But here her question is, do we have to pay for this ourselves, or will family members have to pay for it?
Yeah, she wants to know if they'll need to pay more than they did before for their own care. Maybe when you get older, you can't say you get elderly. When you get older, perhaps you don't have family. Maybe you're alone and you'll have to pay for your own care. Or sometimes, of course, we have to help out our family members, which everyone understands. Now, Minister Taylor responds to her question by saying, our primary concern, our most important thing that we're worried about is that people should only pay what they can afford. When you talk about what you can afford, it means you have enough money for that thing. If you can't afford something, for example, I really can't afford to buy a Jaguar, which is the kind of car I want.
Really?
I can't afford that, which means I don't have enough money to buy that car and then still pay for my other living expenses. I guess I could if I really, really, really wanted one, but I guess I don't want it that badly. But if you can't afford something, then you can't buy it. So the government doesn't want people to have to pay more than they can afford.
That's right. Again, for example, I'd like to buy a car, but I can't afford it, so I'm going to buy a bicycle. Now, further contributions will come from the government. So, yes, basically they're saying that people will pay for what they can, but when they don't have enough money, then we will look for the government. We'll get contributions from the government. A contribution usually is money that you just give to somebody. It's a kind of gift. It's like charity or something like that. Would you like to make a contribution to the children's home? For example, someone might knock on your door and ask for a donation or a contribution, something that helps somebody else.
It should also be fair, he says, in that no generation should have to pay considerably more than another. So he's also telling us it looks like if we don't have this new plan, this new policy or program instituted, we're actually going to have to pay more than our parents did for their parents.
Oh, no.
I know. A generation is just all of the people who were born around the same time. My grandparents are in a different generation than my parents, and I'm in a different generation than my parents. So that's an important point. We don't want to have to pay considerably more. Considerably means a lot more. Something to consider is something you have to think about, maybe because it's large.
Maybe so. And Elizabeth says, well, that's enough about funding here. Let's move away from funding. We'll not talk about funding now, and we'll move on to the kind of care you're hoping a new policy will provide. Let's talk specifically about the kind of care that will be involved in this particular policy. And then Minister Taylor goes ahead and tries to answer that question.
He moves on actually to talk about something other than funding. Funding just means the money that is needed for a particular project or policy. Funding. Oh, we don't usually use it in our personal lives. I don't think I would say, oh, I want to save so I can have some funding for my new bicycle. We usually just use it in business and government to talk about a lot of money. So she wants to talk about the kind of care. Is it going to be really good? Are you going to maybe cut back or decrease the level of care that we've been giving to the elderly? What does he say? He says it's self-evident that the more elderly people there are, the more caregivers society requires, which is pretty logical. We do have more elderly people these days than we did before, with fewer children to take care of their parents. That's the real problem here in Taiwan.
Kind of scary, yeah.
Yeah. If you have to shoulder or take on all of those expenses yourself, it can be quite expensive. If something is self-evident, it means it's very obvious for you to see for yourself.
It certainly is. It's very obvious. That reminds me, what is it, the preamble to the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence? We hold these truths to be self-evident. In other words, to be our own country, to be independent, basically.
And these truths that we're talking about that America is established on, it just means they're so obvious. Isn't it true that the whole world agrees with us? Like everyone should have freedom. That should be self-evident. That's a self-evident truth.
Absolutely. So here it's obvious, it's self-evident that the more elderly people there are in society, the more caregivers that we need. Indeed, if elderly people are large in number, a certain percentage of them are going to be sick. They won't be able to take care of themselves. They'll lose the ability to walk and stuff like that. So yes, we will need caregivers.
I know the government has... Oh, sorry, Tom. I know the government just increased the number of caregivers that can come from foreign countries. It used to be quite difficult. I think you had to be 90 in order to get a caregiver to have permission from the government. But they've lowered the age, which is good.
Well, I've always wondered about, how many people are they going to be able to use from those other countries like Vietnam or Indonesia? Don't those countries have their own elderly people to take care of too? So that's another question you can talk about. But in any case here, therefore, the minister goes on to say, we need to make sure personnel involved in long-term care for the elderly receive appropriate wages and have a clear career path. So yes, indeed, we're talking about personnel. if we're talking about personnel, we're usually talking about people who work for a company or some kind of organization. Like the person who handles these people is called a personnel manager. So we need to make sure the personnel or the employees or people who are employed to take care of the elderly will have appropriate wages and they'll also have a career path. Appropriate means suitable. We're not going to pay them like $10 NT an hour or something like that and expect them to work 7 days a week without a break or something like that. We need to treat them like we would a regular employee, not like a slave.
Yeah, I think they've actually passed laws to protect a lot of these caregivers because some of their employers did want them to work 7 days a week, and everyone needs a break, as we know. So they need to have, a long-term career path. Your career is what you're going to be doing to make a living for the rest of your life. So, how do they get promoted? Does their salary increase after they've been doing this sort of care for several years? So they wanted to take care of that too. Not only will this policy create jobs, but it will improve conditions in care facilities and give people the option of receiving care at home. Care facilities include things like nursing homes and rest homes. I'll often call them rest homes too. And I've heard really horrible stories about how the elderly are abused and not taken good care of in other countries, not in Taiwan, but I have heard of these stories in America. And we want our family members to receive good care. So they're going to make sure the conditions or the situation in these care facilities improves. A facility is any sort of building where things are done. It could be gym facilities, it could be health facilities. So it includes everything that you need for a particular activity. It's space, it's equipment, maybe you're cooking there, maybe you're camping somewhere, and there are facilities that you can use that include bathrooms and a place to wash, things like that.
Yeah, this is confused often with the word equipment. Facilities, to me, they're bigger. They're more permanent structures like buildings or like if it's like picnicking facilities.
Land.
Land. Is there a table there? Whereas the equipment would be the actual tools, the oven that you bring and stuff like that.
Yeah, that doesn't include any buildings. Yeah.
Exactly. So in any case, yes, they need to improve conditions in those care facilities. It's not just a place to send people to wait for them to die. And we also need to give people the option of receiving care at home, the option or the choice. And I think a lot of people would rather stay home instead of being sent to a care center. Although it depends on the nature of the place. My uncle moved into an assisted living facility.
Those are nice.
And I guess they enjoy it there. And then Elizabeth has another question. How about people suffering from dementia? Dementia is a condition in which you're having problems with your brain and you have memory problems, personality problems, and stuff like that.
You start forgetting who you are and who those around you are. So she wants to talk about that, but Minister Taylor says, I'll move on to address that topic now. We're going to save that for our next program. But right now, let's explain what address means. It just means to talk about a particular issue or situation. They're just going to give you some particulars about something. So here, remember though, this is a verb. I'm going to address this. So you're going to speak about it or write about it. You can even address an envelope and put the address of the person you're sending this to on there. Now, the verb, of course, is the pronunciation is address. It has to be address. The noun verb or the noun form of this word can be either address or address.
Indeed, you can say it both ways.
Sorry, it's so confusing. Sorry about that.
Pretty weird, but right now we're going to take a break and listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll have some extra dialogues for you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天我们看的是第9单元。这个对话的内容，今天的主题是要谈我们报纸新闻正在讨论的一个新的政策。这个新的政策和老年照护服务有关。好，这个 new policy 我们现在就来看一下。首先呢，在对话内容里面呢，其实这是一个部长上节目。那我们知道这个受访者呢，这位部长 就是要来谈谈所谓的老年照护服务。什么叫老年照护服务？在英文呢，你可以说是 elderly care services。好，不过在他这个部长介绍这个老年照护服务之前呢，在开场白的地方，主持人他说了一句，哇 How grateful we are to have you on the show。 好，这当然是客套话， How grateful we are 这样子的句型其实也是一种惊叹句，表示哇，我们真的非常的感激，很感激你来上我们的节目。好，那部长要介绍这个政策的时候呢，主持人他还问了，他想问的第一个问题是，为什么这个政策是必要的？所以部长的回答里面，他就说到了，原来推出这个政策的时候，他好像以为是应该够的，不过旧政策到现在来看，就是没办法再继续了。好，这次回答里面呢，他用到了一个句子，他说到了 For the time in which it was conceived， 意思就是说，在那个时候，在那个时间，也就是他被构思出来的那个时候。好 in which， 当然我们知道介系词的 in 为什么要保留，因为你是在讲In that time， 在那个时候。好，再来下面呢，我们继续来看对话里头，主持人又继续问到，既然有了新政策，说旧的政策不够用了，那是表示要付多一点的钱吗？好，那这个句子里面的句型也比较特别，大家要看到，他说到了是 pay more for their own care or that of their family members。为什么会加一个 that？ 其实这个 that 要从前后文来判断，它指的就是前面说的 care， 也就是说是他们自己的，或者是说还有对他们的家人那一部分要多付钱，是不是这样的呢？好，那我们知道这个 that 本来就是一个指称词，在这个前后文里面，它讲的 context 里面其实有一些是重复的，以这个 that 来说，就是指前面重复的那个 care。 好，再来我们再往下，部长回答，他的回答其实很有趣，他意思就是说，我们希望人们一般人要付的只是你负担得起的部分，那负担不起的部分就让政府来负责。那付费呢，当然要求公平，我们不希望说你这个世代要为上一个世代的人或另外一个世代人来付钱，这样就是不公平的付费原则。好，这个回答大家都应该看得懂，不过要注意到有一个很有趣的字，就是 considerably。considerably 这个字我们用起来，其实它是代表一个量，意思就是量很多。也就是说，如果以这个地方前后文做比较的话，要比另外一个世代要付多了。好，这个字放在讲数字的时候尤其要注意。好，再来下面呢，主持人他当然希望他来谈一下这个新政策他要提供的照护类型是怎么一回事。好，部长的回答就说到，就是只要有越多的老人，社会就越需要更多的看护。那这个地方有一个句型，就是 the more，越怎么样就越怎么样。这边前面提到老人越多，后面就提到你的 caregivers， 也就是看护者就需要更多。好，那一样的再往下面，他的解释里面提到这个长期照护人员的部分，他说到应该要有一个恰当的薪水，而且他还有清楚的职涯之路，这是在政府的规划里面。那提到这句话的时候，他后面用了一个句子，用到倒装句。我们看到他说 Not only will this create jobs, but it will improve conditions in care facilities。 好，我们就看到这里这个句子的 not only but， 我们晓得我们要讲不光是 A， 而且还有 B， 就会用到 not only but also。 可是比较特别的，也就像这句子里面所写的一样，如果你的 not only 是放句首，然后它呢接了一个完整句的话，那要注意哦，这个 not only 前半句 你必须要用到倒装，因为毕竟 not 是一个否定副词，而否定副词放句首，我们本来就会有倒装现象。好，那这个地方的倒装在哪里？看到了 Will this create jobs？ 你把助动词的 will 提到了主词之前，所以这就是倒装句型。好，我们今天的讲解就到此为止，我们下次见。
Okay, let's talk about some extra dialogues
Okay.
here. We've got some more questions and answers as if this were a talk show. So I'm going to ask the question here, and you answer it as if you're the minister.
Sure.
Here. How many new caregiver jobs does the policy hope to create?
We've set ourselves an initial goal of 5,000 jobs by 2025. So they're going to add an additional 5,000 caregivers here in Taiwan, which will actually help a lot of people. If you set an initial goal, it means when you first start out and you have something you want to achieve, you know, you have that initial or first goal. It may change as you work towards the goal, but that's the first numbers they've set up. They may need to increase or decrease depending on how things look in 2025. So, Tom, I'll ask you the next question.
Sure.
How will the new policy help dementia sufferers?
We're currently setting up a training course and specialized facilities for caregivers who will work with dementia patients. So that's what they're planning to do, set up or establish a training course. And they'll also have specialized facilities.
Cool.
They're special for this particular job that they're going to do. And they're going to work with dementia patients. They're different from regular patients.
Yeah.
They require different kinds of care. Here's another question. Will new facilities need to be created for the elderly?
Yes, though we're hoping to make sure people receive care at home wherever possible. We understand that this might not be feasible for everyone. Some people really do have a great desire to stay at home and eventually to actually die at home. It just feels better to be surrounded by your family and your loved ones. But that's not always possible, as we know. So they want to make sure that they'll have new facilities for those who can't remain at home to be taken care of by family or maybe a caregiver that is hired to look after that person. Sometimes they really do need to go to these nursing homes or these assisted living centers. It helps out a lot for some people who don't maybe have enough hours in the day. Maybe there's one single person looking after two parents.
Indeed, that is possible. And now we're going to talk about a discussion question here. I'll ask you, what kind of care do elderly people need?
They need someone who still sees them as a person. I think some people forget that these are young people. They were young a long time ago, and you can talk to them. Sometimes they feel lonely and left out. Even my dad is starting to say, oh, don't they remember I'm really good at teaching that? Or, so you have to remember that they still have all of the feelings they had when they were 25. So we need to really give them a lot of emotional care and emotional time with them.
Yeah, their minds are still young, but their bodies are old. So yes, indeed, you need to give them a sense of purpose. And they do have a lot to teach us. And yes, we should always remind ourselves of that instead of staring at our screens all the time. Well, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Thank you for joining us. And please join us again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Bye.